Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about the difficulties of moving forward and adopting a virtual world.
Can we expect the same experience in a traditional sense? Or do we need to adapt our view of what live music means?
It's going to be really interesting to see how digital events get developed over the next couple of years, because I don't think that, just like everything digital, it kind of like we got the physical, what happens in the real world, we make it digital, but then it breeds into its own thing. You know, it changes and morphs as the technology comes. So I actually don't think that raves in, you know, the digital world are going to even look like raves.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Because exactly, yeah, as you said, exactly as we see with everything, how it translates into the digital world doesn't have necessarily exactly the same thesis or the same meaning when it does translate. So if we took a live event from a club right now and we put that straight into a digital thing where you haven't got the people surrounding you, the hustle and the bustle, the vibrations going through your body, the feedback of the room, just that atmosphere isn't going to translate directly into a virtual world. So it sort of opens up like an opportunity there to stylize it in a different way. So I think an interesting like way to go around that would be to have a bit more of a gamified event. So it could be quite boring if you're just sat there listening to an artist in a virtual event like you've seen in Decentraland or like Sensorium, a building. But it would be more interesting if you had something else to do whilst you're in that space. Because obviously, if you remember, like all of these events are being hosted in essentially virtual game worlds, digital spaces where you've got things to do, like the opportunities are endless, essentially. So can you maybe have like a side quest in these events, or can you have like, what does a chat room look like? What does the party essentially look like in part of this event?
Yeah, I didn't think of that. Yeah, the side rooms and stuff, and how I think they're going to have their own issues to tackle, you know, the whole event. And like, you're going to have to basically write down, let's say, you know, this is what a real life event does and why people go to them. That's the question. Why do people go to these events? It's not just for the music, it's the community, meeting new people, all the other things you've said. Translating that digitally is not going to work perfectly. They're going to have to make adjustments there, here and there and stuff like that. But also now you've got the digital space to kind of do what you want. You can make these, you know, separate rooms that kind of offer something different. So you can still maybe hear the music in the background, you know, but you go into this other room and it's more of a chattier vibe type of thing, kind of like a smoking shelter without the smell, you know.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I know a lot of people that go to events and they'll pay $60 to get into the event and end up spending the entire event in the actual smoker section, just chatting shit.
Yeah.
So how does that like translate into the digital world? What does that look like? Are you just going to have some kind of like keyboard chatbot? Are you going to have a space where you can meet these new people?
Be kind of like this VR chat rooms now. I can't remember the name of them, but you walk around in your avatar and talk to people.
Yeah.
And I've seen YouTube channels that are dedicated to interviewing people in there just for fun. You know, interviewing, what's your story, what's your life, and stuff like that. So I think like already the structure's there. You just got to copy that and put it with an event around it, or maybe actually just add an event to that.
Yeah.
You know, I think like maybe the music will have to change, because they are, you know, I think certain musics will fare better, like trance and more emotionally maybe impactful things are going to be a bit easier to sell, because they're going to have like easier visuals to go with. It's going to be all about, you know, I feel really emotional, this is really cool and stuff like that. Whereas some of the more like dirty music, like the darker stuff, maybe would have to try a bit harder, I'm thinking, possibly. And then also you've got certain communities and certain genres are going to be less adaptive to the change than others, and I think the ones who are going to be more adaptive are obviously going to be more successful at the start.
But on that note though, one thing that comes to my mind is the smaller communities of what we consider as a smaller community. So like obviously you're from your background is in techno, and in Cardiff the techno scene is almost non-existent.
Techno who?
However, once you put that online, niches are not small. Do you know what I mean? Like when you're looking at a global scale, and you've got everybody who's into that music, that's a big community then, because you've got access to the global community. It's just whether they can do it in a right way to actually pull the people onto the platform to actually listen to it.
Yeah.
So this is my problem with a lot of the live events that we're sort of seeing cropping up in the Metaverse right now, is they're building entire music worlds. So you've got Sensorium Galaxy, which has signed some really high tier artists like Carl Cox, David Guetta, Charlotte DeWitt. There's some really impressive talent there, and they've built out like a sort of a space-themed virtual world, where you can go and you can host your parties, you can attend the parties, you can meet people on there, but it's all just centered around the music. But I personally think that there's a bigger opportunity there to infuse the music and what you get from these live events, but with something else. So whether it's, as we mentioned before, whether it's in your game or whether it's in your chat room, I think that it's going to be better to merge the services together, where you've got a more all like sort of rounded service to offer, instead of just having one destination that you've got to plug into just to go and watch an event. It just leaves the question of how unique can you make that to make you want to stay in, sit on your sofa, put a headset on and dive into it, instead of going down your local club or venue just to see an artist there.
Yeah, I think that's the gap is going to be finding, you know, like, okay, we can offer this in an event, but like in reality, you've got to compete with, you know, someone going out and leaving their home to another club is a whole different experience. And there's probably like psychological differences in the sense of like when you leave to go somewhere, your mindset changes about that thing. If you never leave your room and put on your headset, will you be able to have the same experience? Because I know while you're in the comfortability of your own home, you know, sometimes you feel uncomfortable when you go out to a rave and stuff like that, especially when you start. But that's part of the excitement, you know, part of I'm not in a space I'm truly at home with, but that gives you the bit of like I am, you know. And I think that when they create, like, if you were just trying to emulate the music, I don't think you're going to do well. I think you're going to have to really look hard at what you're trying to do and try and maximize certain things to try and really convince people to come in. Because even for me, I'm in the scene, I kind of really want to see this develop, but it's going to take a lot to impress me, because I've been to a lot of clubs, I've been to a lot of raves, I DJ, I produce music, I've got high expectations, but a high understanding that it's going to take time to get there. But I think a lot of people are going to be turned off at quick brash attempts to try and replicate rather than innovate the scene, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so someone who's been doing really well in the scene is Fortnite. We've briefed over a couple of their events that they've put on with Ariana Grande and Travis Scott. However, that seems to serve as simply a marketing ploy to get people onto the platform, to sort of introduce them to the updates or the next stage or something like that, as opposed to just narrowing it down to just a music event.
Yeah.
Now, as we were saying before, I think that's a great opportunity there to merge the game and the music together to bring a more sort of rounded offering. However, it's steering away from the value of the music. So, like, as an artist, you want a platform that you can go and express yourself and showcase your music, what you've been working on. But does it demean the value of your music that you've created if you're just serving as a platform to do a 10-minute set to get people to come on and introduce a new update in a game? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's you hit the point with you making the 20-minute sets for Fortnite that are actually just advertising for Fortnite. And you just got to look at it like that. It's a proof of concept at the moment to kind of show that, yeah, we can do this, and that this is actually a good idea. But in reality, you've got to look at it as Epic Games, the corporation, are looking to push forward something. And they're like, well, how best can we do this? let's book Ariana Grande. She's going to sell loads of tickets, loads of exposure. But that's like a different side. That's like the Super Bowl type of, idea. We need some entertainment, but we need to look at it in a sense of like, well, that's fine and dandy for them to do, but in reality, there's gonna have to be a space to truly do this for people who just want to go see the music,
Yeah.
But even then, even though they want to just see the music, there's going to be different things. I think,
Yeah.
It's
no, of course. Yeah, we have seen events being thrown up. Take Decentraland. You've had like whether it's art exhibits and they've got an artist in to come and play, which brings us back to what we were just saying about having like merging two sort of services together. However, I've seen some of these events that have been hosted and they look just so dystopian. It's like where you've just got everybody stood around, nobody really knows, that there doesn't seem any sort of directive, and it's harder to captivate the people, especially in the age of technology where used to being like buzzed 24/7. If you haven't got that destination to go out, as you were saying, so you haven't got like the connection with that place, then is it going to be harder to hold people's attention in these spaces if we don't essentially evolve the service?
Yeah, and it may take ages for people to get used to it in a sense. Like, I can't imagine putting on a headset now and actually physically dancing in my room on my own. I don't know if it just feel wrong. I don't have a VR headset, but I would think it would just feel wrong or feel a bit more self-conscious because you truly know you're in your room on your own with a headset on dancing, and maybe that'll grow and people get used to it. But I think like, when you are in a club and everyone's dancing, you get excited, everyone's community, everyone's in the same thing, and maybe that won't be replicated in the headset for now. It may do if you see everyone else dancing, you may be like, okay, but...
Yeah, so on that point, I sort of feel that it's similar to general socialization at the minute. And if you look over the last 10 years at how that's changed. So when I was younger, I used to go and knock on my friend's door and then we would go down the park, or we would arrange when we were leaving school, we would arrange a certain time to meet at the local park. However, now everybody comes home and they put their headphones on, they go into their game or they go into their Xbox or their PlayStation. And that's where the majority of like socialization occurs right now.
True.
So I personally feel that there is definitely, people can learn. I think there is potential for that to become a bit more normal. It's going to take a lot more users to adopt it, and then
weird, isn't it? Because you think about it, like if you're at a rave when it's full and you're a bit sardined, it's a bit warm though. Do you know what I mean? And you feel comfortable because everyone's around you, and you feel like but in a 3D virtual world, unless they put haptic feedback, so you bump into people, they've oversold an event, and you're like squeezed.
I do. This is the thing, and we can't really speak for how fast this technology is going to advance. But it's hard to remember what we've already gone through because we just sort of get used to it so quickly. So it's hard to remember the changes of which we've seen, but when you look back and you see the massive growth and you see how exponential it is, it's only going to get bigger and better from here. And on that note as well, I also believe it's going to get far, far more immersive. So whether that's through the headsets, whether that's through the haptic feedback suits, gear, gloves, whether it's through certain technologies of which... So my thinking was the other day, a lot of less people are drinking at the minute. I think it's like a third of 18 to 25-year-olds in the UK are now teetotal.
Disgusting. Disappointed. No, I actually don't drink either much.
but that's a shocking that's a shocking statistic, considering I'll have to fact check that, mind. But it's something along those lines. But it's a shockingly high number, and that's a change that's occurred in just the last few years. But on the other side of that, a lot of people are taking a lot more drugs. And especially it's extremely prevalent in the music scene. And there's no denying that. Like, people think that it goes hand in hand.
People don't realise how much it goes on. You know, I'd say it's some events I've been to, over 95% of the people are on gear. You know.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah, it's easier to pick a sober DJ out than a sober person in the crowd, isn't it?
Well, this is it. But yeah, so that's really interesting in the sense of like a lot of obviously people are now taken to drugs. However, I feel like the technology is growing at such a rapid rate that I would like to maybe riff with you about the possibility of an effect or some kind of technology that you could plug into your headset that could actually trick your brain into believing that you're actually high,
placebo,
just through the visuals. It's quite an interesting thought experiment, and I was actually talking about this the other day because I've been working with a psychedelic company who's based in London, and they do psychedelic treatments. And I was talking to them about whether you could maybe build this into a headset where you can trick the brain. If anybody out there has ever put on a headset, then they'll understand how quickly your brain adjusts and believes that you're in that space. I'm forever falling over or leaning on counters that aren't there, or get the motion sickness from where my brain thinks that I'm moving, but my physical body actually isn't. When you think about what is actually going on and how easy it is to trick your brain, because at the end of the day it's just data points going, like photons going into your eyes, and then the neurons are picking that up as information and telling you what they think they're seeing. So if you can trick your brain into thinking that you're seeing something that's not actually there, surely you can trick it into feeling certain ways as well. I'll tell you a story. Like there was a guy who I follow who he's quite deep into the VR world. He's trying on all the different headsets, and he tried this one headset on. I don't think it was Pimax. I'll have to get back to you on that, but it was an extremely expensive headset that's just been developed. He had this on, and then there was a sort of an anatomy figure, like droid, a man where it was just like the musculature come into walked into the room, and he put his hand out to touch it. Although he had no haptic gloves on or no feedback, no haptic feedback in any sense, he felt the warmth of this being stood in front of him,
where his mind was actually
mind thought. So it leaves a opportunity there to perhaps start serving as like these could even venture into medical practices, pharmaceutical practices. So this is the discussion that I had with the guys over at, I won't say their name, who are working on it at the minute, and I genuinely think there's a possibility there.
Yeah, mate, and you think about that, actually, you could go even deeper about that. You could probably use it to treat a lot of like psychological issues, you know, force people to relive past memories that they don't want to face and stuff like that, you know, in a safe context and stuff, and maybe cause relaxation or like, you know, help people with sleep, you know, because our eyes are our main, you know.
Yeah, on that note, you could even plug something in that causes like a high stress response to help you learn stuff.
Oh, right, yeah. I know what you mean.
Yeah, so like obviously if you're learning, the best way to learn is to cause such a high stress response immediately after, because then that'll trigger what's it called? Yeah,
epinephrine and
so that'll trigger your epinephrine to go through the roof.
Acetylcholine.
There we are.
Thank you, Huberman.
Shout out Andrew Huberman. Check him out, guys. So that'll trigger like the spotlight on that occurrence, and that's when you go back to sleep then, or your NSDR, Andrew Huberman. That's when your brain then goes back and picks out the highlighted section. So when was your stress raised so high? So perhaps there serves an opportunity here to use these headsets as an actual learning protocol to highlight certain things to then go back and remember. Yeah. Interesting. We've just gone on a hell of a tangent.
Bit of a tangent, isn't it? But, no, but that's it. Yeah. I think the VR thing, like, and, you know, this is the first rudimentary step, which, you know, what is VR? It's virtual reality, but in reality, that's not what it is. It's the ability to control our visual perception at the moment, and maybe more. It's the ability to control our visual perception. End of.
Yeah.
You know, and like think of VR as the first step in the technology that eventually maybe we'll get, you know, some glasses, or then eventually contact lenses, or maybe an eye replacement that allows you to interact more with, you know, different things in reality, you know?
Yeah. So this is the thing, is a lot of people are put off the whole VR scene because of how clunky it looks, having that big headpiece and this.
Yeah.
But once again, it's only a matter of time before they nail that.
You know, yeah. Do you know what, mate? It actually may just be more like a film, you know, where instead of like a film is all sets and stuff like that, you have a visual thing of a visual. You know, the artist would actually concentrate more on the video or the visuals, and then put the music to match the video. You know.
Yeah.
That's interesting, actually.
Yeah.
You know.
There was a really good game built into the Oculus that I had. What's it called? I'm really trying to remember his name. But essentially, you follow it. It's a game where you follow this guy's story throughout his life, and he's got quite a depressive story. But he talks about how he had drug issues, and he used to go to the raves, and then like he would be in a rave. You're in the rave as him, but you're stood on some huge decks, and you've got like the buttons and and like there's just so the jog wheels are to your side, and you're seeing loads of stuff coming in. But it's very like 3D immersive, extremely low bitrate, like extremely low poly game. So you've just got big blocks falling down, or like the avatars are just huge, and you see him in the crowd just dancing, but just the silhouettes. Really simple game, but really effective in showing like the progression of his life, but just in like a simple rate, but with the music in the background, like the beat going, like when he's in the club. It was just so captivating that you're fully immersed. So it's just a completely different take on going to an event. You're entirely on your own, but you've just got a whole story backing it. Perhaps that's a good option there.
Because like I've been to raves and I've thought during the rave, like with all the visuals and all the music, I'm like, this is not music. This is transcended music. You know, I am like emotionally invested to what I'm seeing on the screen somehow. You know, and I start getting like different opinions of the songs I'm listening to. Like this song is making me feel like I'm getting chased. You know, not in a bad way, but in like an exciting way. I like some events I've been to. I actually feel like I'm in a film. You know, and that sounds mad because you're surrounded by people and you're obviously not watching a film. But it's kind of like I don't think you. I don't have the words to describe how it sounds to people who haven't been, but if I say that to someone who's been, they'll be like, I totally get what you're saying, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I've been like seeing Anna and stuff, and like different artists give me different like opinions of emotions and stuff, and I'm like, oh fuck, this actually sounds like I am being chased, or I'm chasing something. It give me that like animalistic drive, a motivational emotion, you know? And other songs don't do that, and other sets, you know, completely different.
Yeah, for sure. I told you about that time I went to go and see Afterlife in Printworks in London, and towards the end of the night there was genuinely a point where I thought I was joining a cult. Honestly, I thought I was joining a cult, because obviously you've just got rows and rows and rows and rows of people. We're all tightly packed, ridiculous, way oversold, but we're all facing the front. They're like the priests, or like the all-knowing power at the front that's like controlling the whole crowd. Everybody's going through the same emotions, following the set, just like
groupthink, man.
Yeah, genuinely, just marching to the beat. And they pulled this big light from behind the stage, which just lit everything up, and it was just as if the room just expanded like into infinity. And at that point I was just like, yo, I've just joined a cult. I've just joined a cult. And I was completely happy about it, and I was completely happy, and I was just like, this is cool, okay, right, I'm here, that. I'm done.
I've had it where I thought like this is what got me into DJing. I was looking at someone play, and I was just like, he is a god, like, and I was thinking like I had this emotional response where I was like, he is literally the All-Father, the God. He's controlling everyone in this room to give them a happy time, you know, a good time. And I was like, I want to do that. You know? It sounds very narcissistic when I say like that. I want to become a god. But it's like when they're on stage though, especially as the punter dancing, you are disconnected from them and you have no idea what they're doing. They are under control of the night, and you just like, there's this level of like disconnection in a good way, you know, where there's like mystery, that's the word.
Yeah.
You know, and that mystery is the key that sold me on it, in a sense.
Yeah.
And I think when people ask me, oh, how do you DJ and stuff like that, if I know they're not serious, I won't tell them, because it's better for them not to know, you know. Because before I knew how to DJ, every night was magical, you know. Oh my God, what are they doing? Like,
yeah.
But now I know, I'm kind of like, it takes a good DJ to kind of impress me, in a sense, though, you know.
Yeah, for sure. It's easy to forget the power that comes with the event, isn't it? Like, how much you can be, like, how lost you can get in the music. And the best thing is, like, it doesn't matter on the artist a lot of the time. Like, sometimes some of my best events that I've been to, I haven't been aware of who's playing, and then they've just robbed my soul.
Yeah.
You know, and they've just taken me away, and I've put my hands up, I throw my hands up, and I've said, I'm yours for tonight. Take me, do what you want with me.
Yeah, I consent.
yeah. Just return me in the morning.
The One Piece.
Yeah. But that's the most powerful thing about going to these live events, and that's what we've really got to anchor onto, is how can we portray this emotion, this emotional roller coaster, or this attachment to the person, the artist, the community, the people that are there. How do you sort of translate this shared experience inside a digital world?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult, because there's factors that we won't even know about considering yet, because we've not attempted. You know, even the people who are trying to attempt now, I don't think, you know, like, they're going to still be finding things out in years' time. Because, we've got the visuals done perfect now. Oh, but it's still not enough. You know, what's this? Oh, it's still not enough. What are we missing? You know, I don't know. You may not be missing anything, right? It just may not be good enough. It may not be a good enough analog to the real world, and you may have to go by far beyond it, even transform it into something that is not even recognizable as a music event today. And that'll be the digital music event. That'll be the digital rave, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
I think a big thing for these virtual clubs is going to be that you're going to have more access to people who couldn't attend certain events or clubs because maybe of disabilities or like locational differences, you know? I think that's going to be good, you know. I know, like, there's a DJ who's bed-bound, stuck to a not a wheelchair, but, you know, a bed, and he still DJs and Twitch, live streams on Twitch, you know. So it'd be really good for, like, people like him, you can finally actually go to a rave, you know.
Yeah, it opens up a much bigger opportunity for those with disabilities, or not so much disabilities either, just those who are uncomfortable in those types of scenarios. So at least it offers an opportunity to everybody, a wider cast opportunity for everybody anyway.
Yeah, hopefully they can build up their confidence then, and maybe even, you know, hopefully go to a real event if those are still...
If real events are such a thing.
Yeah.
That is one benefit. I suppose it also opens up an opportunity for them to characterize themselves or portray themselves however they want to in their avatar when they're venturing around these worlds.
Yeah.
Which I think is quite a big thing at the minute, eh?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be good because, you know, like you said, you could make your own avatar, design it how you want to design it, and hopefully be able to express yourself that way, you know?
Yeah, and that's what it's all about, isn't it? It's expression.
Yeah.
Expression, how you feel inside.
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Though it might be a bit distracting as a DJ, looking out and seeing, like, hedgehogs and stuff, or, you know, if they come as animals, maybe, I don't know. Because people will, like, you know...
The artists themselves, how do they interact with the world? So, say they're performing live, what's their visual cue as they perform? Because what you got to remember as well is the majority of the events that I've seen being produced right now, we've got the artist geared up in full mocap or in the sensors, so you can translate that into their avatar as they're playing, and then they've got a helmet on with the camera out in the front to pick up their emotions and their likeness for their avatar. But if they are performing live, do they have interaction with the crowd? Because this is another thing that I've been struggling with what we're working on, is how do we get the same connection between the artist and the listener. Because obviously you're well aware that when you're playing, you need to satisfy them and take them on their journey. So if you need to identify whether they're not feeling a song, or identify what kind of songs that they prefer.
Yeah.
So what does the interface look like there? How is the artist going to...
It's going to be different, isn't it? Because at the moment, it is difficult to read a crowd. It's not like as simple as people say, oh, you can read a crowd. You should be able to read a crowd as a DJ. It's not like, you know, I can change my entire genre mid-song, you know? And like the other night I was playing in Motion, and there was a drum and bass heavy event. So I was the only one playing techno. And very difficult. But it was a 2-hour set, so I did have time to experiment. And what I learned is that I needed that event to play really heavy, really hard, but simplistic songs. And that's how I read, because I was just seeing literally people leave when in their head boring songs came on, and then people would come in when the really heavy songs are on, you know. But there's still this social contract of they need to act in a certain way, as in, like, you know, when you go to a rave, you dance, you know, and you do certain things because that's what's acceptable at a rave, and that's why they're there to do so, and the DJ understands that. But in the digital space, if all that gets thrown out the window and people just do what they want, it's going to be much more difficult for a DJ to read a room. That's if it's live. If it's pre-recorded, well, you can't do anything anyway.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure, yeah.
So if it's got the same social contract, it'll act similar. If it's going to be a different social contract, then, well, there's no telling what they'll have to do, really.
Yeah.
Will people be voting, you know?
Yeah, so I think it should be
too much power away. The in my opinion, the artist is the one with the power in the night. It shouldn't be down to the people, really.
Yeah, but then a good artist should be able to play to the crowd, of course. But
the amount of times I've had women in a rave come up asking to pay like temperature by I don't know, it was a Ja Rule, I don't know. Yeah. They asked to play like R&B, and I'm just looking at them like, this is a rave, and B, I don't take requests, like, go away, like, you know, like. And then they're disappointed and they're annoyed sometimes that I don't give them an ID, and I'm like, no, sorry.
Yeah, I think steering away from like the sort of request kind of philosophy, like we're playing to a crowd that's there for that kind of music, but at the very best, I've never even seen this before. Like, from what I'm seeing is these artists are set up in full recording rigs to be translated into their avatar within the metaverse. However, so I think the next best step there, so like the next layer around there, is maybe having a screen where you can see the people. So you can see how the people are responding, whether they're jumping up and down, whether they're doing some kind of Fortnite dance move or something like that, and you can maybe detect whether they're enjoying the song from the interaction that you're getting from them if they're on a screen as you're playing, just so they're getting some kind of feedback. But then what's the layer above then, though? Because if they're all in avatars and you don't have the recognition of emotion, then is that going to hinder the performance?
Possibly. As in, like, if I was at that level, I would just ignore the crowd and just do it by feel. You know, if people have paid to see me, I mostly ignore the crowd anyway, because I wouldn't want to be focusing too much on them. Yeah. Because if they've paid to see me, I'm going to deliver them what I want to play. And that is that, you know, reading the crowd is kind of more when, like, you're not playing in the ideal circumstance, because when people have paid to see me, no matter what I do, it's going to be good because people are, you know, enjoying my music.
Because that's what they're going there for.
Yeah, I think virtually it would have to be the DJ in the mocap suit. If it's not pre-recorded, will probably have a headset on as well to just, you know, and you place his actor in the game, let's say, as the DJ. So it would literally be the same, just a digital thing, but. You know, maybe their avatars would have to have, you know, more facial emotions and more, like, you know.
So so this is the problem then. It's like you're you're sacrificing.
Or maybe like little Sims diamonds coming up their head, you know, like bouncing up. Green is good, red is get the next DJ on, please.
But yeah, so this is like the thought path of which I think people should be going down now, is like, how do we translate the emotion of the crowd to them? Whether it's like you could press a like button and the artist can see how many likes are coming through for the song.
I'm literally just thinking that, or like, you know, just like Sims, really, you know, they have the emotion above their head. It pops up as a little thought bubble, and then they'll have a happy face or something in there, you know, and then like you could maybe in the crowd, so many people can vote to pop it up, you know. I've seen in Creamfields before. I think it was Creamfields. You could text a number and have a message displayed on one of the screens, you know.
Yeah. So you could, that's another thing. That's another avenue you could go down. But it's interesting, isn't it? Because I do think that like the connection. So in some of the, I seen David Guetta being recorded for one of his sets, and I think it was for Sensorium. Don't hold me to that. I don't know if he has recorded. I'm pretty sure it was. But he's in the full mocap. He's got the videographers all around him. He's got the camera on his face. But it was really lacking the emotional attachment, because he's just laying a performance in a studio, a big open studio with all the lights on him, which is completely out of character for when I've spoken to artists where they prefer to perform. Do you know what I mean? They want to read the energy and the atmosphere and understand, do you know what I mean? Like, and be part of the event. Whereas all of that sort of recording equipment is going to hinder that. It's going to sort of pull a divide between them and the event, like at the time.
100%. And like when I record a mix, when I'm doing a mix live, amazing, feel excited the entire time, on edge, you know, not scared, but like anxious, you know, the tightrope of, you know,
you've got that slight stress response, haven't you, to make sure that you're
you know, I've nearly pissed myself going on stage because I've been so nervous and on edge, you know. But then that's the price. I was explaining to my girlfriend, like, without the nerves you wouldn't get the enjoyment, because like when I do big events, I'm making myself so uncomfortable to reach a goal that is the price I pay for the benefit. Do you get me?
Yeah.
And like, if I wasn't nervous, then it doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's it.
But I'm recording a mix in my bedroom. I'm bored, you know? Not bored, but I'm like sat on my chair. Like, you know, I get distracted easily. I'm just like sat there for an hour. Not really, my heart's not into it, you know? I'm not having fun. I'm not taking risks, you know?
Yeah.
It's not as good, and that will translate through to pre-recorded sets. It'll be a bit easier probably because you've got people around you recording, you'll be on your feet and you'll be doing a bit, and it's exciting, it's new technology, but you're not going to have that same, I'm playing to 10,000 people, they're all looking at me, I can see their eyes, you know, and I can see their smiles and their gasps of awe, you know. That's going to be very difficult to replicate.
Yeah, so this is actually an idea that I floated before, was when we're taking the recordings, actually having a crowd there so like this is recording, so pre-recorded to go into an event, actually bringing a crowd in, even if it's just a small crowd, just so the artist has that atmospheric sort of buzz around them. It's not going to be the same because you're going to have the lights, you're going to have the equipment there. But just to have something to feed off and something to, because it's exactly the same as in anything anything that you do, like in life, whatever it is, like if you don't have the emotion, or if you don't have the slight stress response, you don't have that connection to whatever you're doing, you're not going to give it your all.
Exactly.
Which I think is extremely important for artists when they're showcasing their work that they've been grafting over to their fans.
That's why a lot of like artists turn to who aren't sober, and they can't be not sober when they DJ because they can't deal with the stress, and they have to numb it, you know, because they can't deal with it. But then in my sense, and like from other people I've spoken to who are sober, it's kind of like that there is there for a reason, you know, because you care so much, you're willing to put yourself through that. But it makes you better because you're more sharp, you're more in tune, you're more responsible for your own mistakes and stuff. Back to David Guetta though, like I think what would be the most realistic sense of doing it would be that if they could motion capture him while he's playing a real event, rather than motion capturing him for a pre-planned event. Do you get
Yeah.
me? There's AI already that can motion capture without a mocap suit on, and it just uses AI to kind of figure out where the background is and then get rid of it. So you'd have to use something like that, because I doubt he's going to want to get on in Tomorrowland wearing a mocap suit. But like, that's going to be the most authentic, but extremely difficult. And you would know that that's a pre-recorded set. That's the same set he played in Tomorrowland, and yeah.
Which I don't think is a majorly bad thing. So like, if you like, we're talking in DJ terms, but if you look across the entire spectrum, a lot of artists, bands, performers, whoever they are, they'll be, obviously, we've said before, grafting all year or for a couple of years to get this music, and then the tour is about showcasing that music, and that show is exactly the same regardless of what event you're going to. It's going to be the same production, it's going to be the same list of songs, it's going to be the same performance.
Yeah.
But music is quite interesting in that sense, isn't it? Like, because it's like, take a film. If you're watching a film, you've watched it once or twice, you don't really want to watch it again. You might want to watch it again, but like, you haven't got a big urge. This is it. But then with music, you can listen to the same song over and over and over and over again. There's something quite primal about music, isn't there?
Yeah.
Where like, it really touches in deep, where you want and you actively search. Like, you find a nice song, like a good song that you like, you'll listen to it on repeat.
Once a song resonates with you, there's nothing better, is there?
Yeah, and even to the point where like, you might not like a song, and then you listen to it as enough times, you end up loving that song. Yeah. Or like some of these like TikTok trends, like where you scroll and you hear the same clip and it does your head in, but then as soon as you hear the song, you're like, oh, like you start tapping your foot to it, or you start singing along to it.
There's loads of songs I hate, and then I've heard them play in a club, but because I recognise them, I'm like, yay! Like that. And in reality,
that's
I hate this song.
But yeah, so I think music is slightly different in that sense, isn't it? You don't really mind going and listening to it over and over again. Exactly the same for live events. Then you don't really mind if it is the same event, it's the same playlist, because if it's in a different environment, or if it's just in a completely different scenario, you're going to resonate differently with it. True. Even just being with different people.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for hanging out with us. If you found any value, please like, share and subscribe.
Check out our socials and the links below. Catch you in the next one.